The safest countries. I did this for 2019 and 2020, skipped 2021, but now here we are in 2023 with the 2022 Global Peace Index report. This is important. Remember, the report is always referring to the previous year. Through it, we're able to learn about the safest countries in the world. I'm going to post a link to the full report in the description, and here in this video, try to summarize it as well as possible, describing what the index is and how it works, what the safest and the least safe countries in the world are, also mentioning some other interesting statistics and pieces of information throughout. Let's start with a global overview of the map. We're instantly called to the attention to notice that Europe is filled with green, only Ukraine and Russia along with Belarus and Kosovo aren't. We all know the reason for the first three. In America, only Canada is dark blue and very few countries altogether are in the green: Panama, Chile, and Uruguay plus French Guiana. In Africa, there's a few more green: Gambia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Equatorial Guinea, Botswana, Zambia, and Malawi. The rest are mostly yellow and then orange or red. The Middle East is a real mix of everything. Oman, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan are green. Saudi Arabia is the only yellow and the rest orange and red. Asia is clearly divided. As you move further east, it gets a little more peaceful. Japan is the only one in the top ranking, but others are also in the green: Mongolia, Taiwan, Bhutan, South Korea, and a bunch in Southeast Asia as well. Only three are in the red: Russia, Afghanistan, and North Korea. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Iran, and Azerbaijan are in the orange as well. And then in Oceania, Australia is green and New Zealand is dark green. Before we keep going though, a quick message from today's sponsor, Magellan TV, a fantastic streaming service, kind of a hidden jewel in the streaming world. It's the best value of any premium documentary streaming service in both price and quality, and you don't need to take my word for it. It's the highest rated documentary streaming app on Google Play. The reason why is that Magellan TV is all about the drama of real life, the lives of ancient pharaohs, critical battles in world wars, the battles for control of the British crown, the Norman conquest, among many others. Magellan TV has the largest and best collection of history shows anywhere. I'm really liking this one about the presidency of Herbert Hoover and learning how he was in office when the Great Depression started, then losing his re-election to FDR in 1932. And there's three other things I like about their service. They add over 20 plus hours of new content every week. 4K is always included in your subscription, and there's no ads whatsoever to interrupt your streaming. If you want to try it out, use the link in the description to get a free trial and a special offer if you choose to subscribe to their service. Now back to the video. So now let's get into the report itself. What is the Global Peace Index? It's a report to measure peace and safety across the world. It covers 99.7% of the world's population and is calculated using 23 qualitative and quantitative indicators. These indicators are divided into three sectors in which the state of peace in each country is measured: the level of societal safety and security, the extent of ongoing domestic and international conflict, and the degree of militarization. In these three, we can see how militarization has reduced, being the only positive evolution, and what holds back the overall peace score from being higher. Remember that here, higher equals worse. The 23 indicators are divided into these three sectors in the following manner. In societal safety and security, we have the level of perceived criminality, the number of refugees, political instability, the impact of terrorism, the number of homicides, the level of violent crime altogether, the likelihood of violent demonstrations, the number of jailed population, and the number of security officers and police per 100,000 people. In ongoing conflicts, the number and duration of internal and external conflicts, and the intensity of the first and role taken in the latter. The number of deaths resulting of those conflicts is also taken into account. In militarization, military expenditure, the number of armed services personnel, the volume transfer of weapons, the financial contribution to peacekeeping missions, and nuclear and heavy weapons capabilities, as well as ease of access to small arms. Of these 23 indicators, 10 recorded improvements and 13 recorded deteriorations in 2022. Each country is measured in each of these factors. They are then taken into account to calculate a value that defines the level of peace in that country. The value ranges from 1 to 5, with 1 being the best and 5 the worst. Let's jump right into the reason you probably clicked on the video, which are the safest and least safe countries. Then we'll get into more detail of the report for those who are interested. The top 10 safest countries in the world in dark blue on the map over the past year are Iceland, New Zealand, Ireland, Denmark, Austria, Portugal, Slovenia, Czechia, Singapore, and Japan. However, the ranking includes the top 15 in the most peaceful category, therefore also including Switzerland, Canada, Hungary, Finland, and Croatia. Germany and Norway are the first left out of the top category. We can see the top 15 switched places a lot, but the values are very close, save Iceland that sets itself apart. And what about the least safe? In red on the map, there are 13 of them. Mali, Libya, North Korea, Ukraine, Sudan, the Central African Republic, Somalia, Iraq, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, South Sudan, Russia, Syria, and Yemen. And the least safe country in the world is Afghanistan. Ethiopia ranks 149th and is the first country not to make it into the least peaceful category. Also worth pointing out that the ranking is 1 to 5, and still no countries rank above 3.4, a silver lining on some otherwise partially not so good results. So now that we've gotten a general idea of this, let's get into further detail of the report, learning about some of the key findings as well as interesting trends and evolutions. There's a really cool interactive map I'll be using. I'll also link it in the description. The average level of global peacefulness deteriorated by 0.3% in 2022 compared to the prior year. This isn't bad, but 11 out of the previous 14 years have confirmed a trend of reduced peace worldwide. The 5 countries with the largest reductions in safety were Ukraine, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Russia, and Haiti, while the 5 countries with the largest improvements were Libya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Philippines, and Algeria. The Middle East and North Africa continue to be the world's least peaceful region. It is home to 2 of the 5 least peaceful countries in the world. However, it recorded the second largest regional improvement over the past year. But conflict in the Middle East has been the key driver of the global deterioration in peacefulness since 2008. On the opposite end, Europe is still the most peaceful region in the world, being home to 4 of the 5 most peaceful countries, and only 1 in Europe is ranked outside the top half of the index. The Russia-Ukraine conflict harmed the region's results, but still it remains at the top. Iceland continues to be the most peaceful nation in the world, and it has held number 1 on the ranking ever since the index was created. Afghanistan, on the other hand, is the least safe for the past 5 years. There were a couple key conflicts that took place in 2022, but even with those, 94 countries reduced their military expenditure as a percentage of GDP, although military spending increased in absolute terms. Following the color code used on the map, 15 countries are considered the most safe in dark green, 52 in green being considered safe. Here we can find countries like the Netherlands, Qatar, Italy, the UK, Greece, Zambia, Chile, or France. 58 are in the yellow, being not too safe but not too unsafe either, such as Morocco, Armenia, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, or Egypt. 23 in the orange, being considered unsafe. Of these, it's important to notice the United States, Israel and Palestine, Brazil, India, Mexico, Turkey, or Iran, among others, and 13 in the red, being the least safe. It's also interesting to check the top 5 and bottom 5 countries in each of the 3 factors. In safety and security, Iceland remains first, but Norway is second, who didn't make it into the dark blue ranking in the overall score, followed by Japan, Denmark, and Singapore. The worst 5 are Afghanistan, Venezuela, Yemen, the DRC, and South Sudan. In ongoing conflicts, the number 1 goes to Botswana, followed by Bulgaria, only then Iceland, Mauritius, and Singapore. The bottom 5 are Syria, Yemen, Russia, Afghanistan, and Somalia. I was surprised that Ukraine was left out of this one. Finally, in militarization, Iceland and Slovenia are the least militarized, along with New Zealand, Hungary, and Malaysia. I was surprised by this one. The most militarized are Israel, Russia, North Korea, the US, and France. When it comes to the regions, we see Europe is the most peaceful, followed by Asia Pacific, with the Middle East and North Africa, along with South Asia being the worst. Europe, Asia Pacific, South America, and the bottom 2 have improved their safety, while all other regions have become less safe. It's odd Europe was able to improve its safety according to the ranking, considering what's going on in Ukraine once again. In Asia Pacific, the safest is New Zealand and the least safe is North Korea. In Central America and the Caribbean, Costa Rica is first and Mexico is last. The safest in Europe is Iceland, of course, while Turkey is the least safe. In Middle East and North Africa, the safest is Qatar and Yemen is the worst. In North America, only 2 are counted, Canada first and the US terribly behind, Russia and Eurasia as Moldova as the safest, and Russia itself in the last place. And finally, in South America, Uruguay takes number 1, with Venezuela being the worst. It's also interesting how the gap between the 25 most peaceful and 25 least peaceful countries has grown wider across past years, as we can see on the chart on page 28 of the report. Over past years, however, armed personnel numbers and military expenditure have decreased, only weapon imports have suddenly increased. Per capita military security spending is interesting to compare between regions. North America is by far the biggest due to the US. There's no possible comparison with the rest. Only Israel surpasses them in military expenditure per capita. Violent demonstrations have also seemingly been on the rise, with South Asia being the place where they happen the most. However, the largest increase in these has been in Kazakhstan, Papua New Guinea, and Rwanda. The index also takes into account something they call positive peace and attribute 8 pillars to it. Here we can see how 7 of them have improved worldwide. I believe these are the key factors they consider important so that a country improves its peace score by lowering it. They are free flow of information, good relations with neighboring countries, equitable distribution of resources, acceptance of the rights of others, sound business environment, high levels of human capital, well-functioning government, and low levels of corruption. The index points out that the effect of the Russia-Ukraine conflict are still not entirely visible, and they dedicate a whole chapter of the report to it, pointing out, for instance, the impact it has had on food security worldwide, with the prices of food already increasing drastically since the start of the conflict. So, that is a brief overview of the safest and least safe countries in the world in 2023 using the report that refers to 2022. Based on the Global Peace Index report available on the Vision of Humanity website, going through the 23 indicators that are taken into account and understanding how countries do across them, as well as getting a general idea of some key findings and noteworthy trends that the report presents. I highly recommend reading the report and playing around with the interactive map. It's very entertaining and visually appealing and allows you to learn a lot at the same time. Were you surprised by any of these results, and do you think they are an accurate depiction of the reality in your country? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want, and I will see you next time for more general knowledge.